I think the party on Broad Street is already starting. What a series. I mean, listen, let's get the elephant out of the room. There's, just get the cat out of the bag, dare I say. Should have been a sweep, but if you told me after Sunday's debacle in Pittsburgh that we would win 3 out of 4 in Miami, I would be very happy. I would have just have assumed that it was the Sandy Alcantara start, that, oh, he shoved it, which he did, but then forever Philly David Robertson said, don't worry, I got you guys. You guys are still in this one. Um, but yeah, I mean, hell of a series from the boys. Again, should have been a sweep, and we'll talk about that third game, and especially with Trey Turner and even his comments after the game. We'll get into that. Welcome back to .NET Phillies. And before we get started with anything, we are now 1 week away from the 1 year live stream extravaganza, August 10th, 6:40. I won't be here. I will instead be at Ashland's because she's moving, so her family needs help with packing stuff. So instead of me being here, I'm bringing all my stuff with me to her house, and I will be doing it, I think, in her basement or her room. I really don't know. But I won't be here, but the live stream is still happening. So look out for that. I'm very excited for it. It's going to be awesome. So in today's episode, we got headlines. We'll go over the series against the Marlins. Another edition of the most garbage, terrible show on the internet. Where are they now? And finally, wrapping it up with a series preview against the Kansas City Royals, which just please. Just don't do the Phillies thing where they lose 2 out of 3 to a terrible, terrible Marlins team, or excuse me, a terrible, terrible Royals team. Took me a second there. And the Marlins are like annoying, dude. Like every time I felt like in the inning, in years past, it's always been like a guy. Like it was like Jesus Aguilar or Miguel Rojas or even John Birdie. It's always been like a guy once through the order. I feel like they have guys now. They have, Arias, they have Bell, they have De La Cruz and Sanchez and Berger and Soler and Eve John Birdie, Joey Wendell. Like they got guys on that team now. They're annoying, but no match for the fighting Phils. That much I can tell you. But before we get into that, there's some news to go over. So obviously the trade deadline was on Tuesday. The Phillies made a couple trades, but before that, Noah Song was not involved in any of the trades, so therefore he's going to do clear waivers and be offered back to the Boston Red Sox for, I think it was like $50,000. So that is officially closed. I'm shocked that nobody wanted him in a trade. I'm sure Dave Dombrowski tried to trade him. And no team was biting in that package. But if I'm a team like the Tigers and I have 0 pitching in development, why not take a flyer on Noah Song in a trade? I don't know, but regardless, Phillies made 2 trades, and a lot of people were not very happy with the trades they made, but I am, and I'll tell you why. So the Phillies, as I called it on Sunday, I said, or Monday, it was Monday, never mind. As I called on Monday, the most realistic option for the Phillies is Michael Lorenzen. And what did they do? The Phillies acquired Michael Lorenzen for infielder Hao-Yu Lee, not an overpay, because I feel like the Phillies have an influx of infielders at to a point where they can afford that. And listen, it was a high buying market. The entire trade deadline, I felt like top prospects were being moved like it was nothing. Like you had the Mets getting Ronald Acuna Jr.'s brother. You had the White Sox getting some guys. The Mets again in the Verlander trade got some top prospects from the Astros. So they got it was a buyer's market, or excuse me, a seller's market, So shout out to the Tigers. I mean, they again, like, why wouldn't you take Noah Song in that trade? Like, if it was Lorenzen for Lee and Song, like, whatever, I guess. But I don't know. Michael Lorenzen, and then the most interesting move to me, because obviously we were looking at outfield pop, obviously from an outsider's perspective. You know, you hope that a guy like Casty turns on the power a little bit. He looked much better. I think he's coming out of that slump a little bit after this Miami series. But Marsh has been really good. But then Schwarber, and playing out there, you have Rojas, who I don't know how much power he's going to hit for. I love Johan Rojas. Don't misunderstand me. I just don't know what his ceiling of power is going to be. And then you have, Jake Cave, who's been okay. So the Phillies, from an outsider's perspective, obviously needed a bat with some thump. And, you looked at Adam Duvall, Teoscar Hernandez, even before they got traded, like a CJ Cron, Randall Grichuk, big bats to subsidize some of the power some of the power that you're not getting from a Bryce Harper, from a Trey Turner, from an Alec Bohm, and Bohm has been fantastic. So they went and got Rodolfo Castro for Bailey Falter. And I love this trade for a lot of reasons, mostly because I never have to sit through a Bailey Falter start ever again. And I definitely didn't have in my preseason prediction that one of my breakout stars is Bailey Falter. Didn't ever say that. So the interesting thing about Rodolfo Castro is he has a career 900 OPS versus left-handed pitching. And you might be thinking to yourself, Jared, well, if they got Lorenzen and Castro, who'd they get off the 40-man? Boy, golly, I'll tell you, Josh Harrison has finally been DFA'd. So Castro is essentially the Josh Harrison replacement. Thank Christ, because I couldn't do it with Josh Harrison anymore. I don't think anybody in the Phillies fandom could take it with Josh Harrison anymore. And again, it's nothing against him, the guy, because apparently Topper said he was a great clubhouse guy, really, really positive, great, around the guys and everything. And then if a club called Topper about Harrison, to pick him up, he would say nothing but great things. So, I just hated him, the player. It's similar to my relationship with Kyle Gibson. I hate him as a player, but I like him as a person. It's like my relationship with Carson Wentz when he was here. I liked him as a person, and I don't like him as a player. But they essentially traded Bailey Falter for Castro, who has 5 years of control left. The Pirates gave up on him really easily. I couldn't tell you why. I couldn't tell you why they only wanted Bailey Falter. I couldn't. Again, Noah Song could have been involved in that trade if you're the Pirates trying to ascend a pitching, because you have Paul Skeens that they just drafted first overall. So I don't know why you wouldn't want to Noah Song just as a throw-in, and I'm assuming that's how Dave Dombrowski was shopping Noah Song, was just a throw-in, like, here, you can have him too. But the interesting part, and the other person who was DFA, was actually Andrew Vasquez. And, I've spoke very highly of Andrew Vasquez throughout the entire year because I thought he was a revelation. But, looking into it a little more and seeing what people are saying on Twitter and kind of looking at the tape a little bit more, you could tell his stuff was starting to teeter off, and he was getting teed up a lot easier. His stuff wasn't generating as much swing and miss as it was in the beginning of the year. So ultimately, I do think this was the right move. And everybody, was saying, what about Dylan Covey? And I think the reason they decided with Vasquez is because if, say Covey does go, you're then kind of left with then you're left with Vasquez, Soto, Strom, and Alvarado in the bullpen. And the only righties you have are Dominguez, Marte, Kimbrel. I think that's it. So missing Hoffman. So it's, 4-4, but I much rather have I'd much rather have Jose Alvarado as the high leverage lefty option because Soto has been a complete disaster since the All-Star break. And Strom is Strom, but it's not his fault that the Phillies try to overuse him all the time. And then it goes to Alvarado. So I think that speaks volume to how they feel about their health. How they feel about Alvarado's health. I think they think he's going to come along a lot quicker than what people initially thought. So that's a good sign. It sucks to see Vasquez go. I'm sure he's going to be claimed very, very quickly. He had great numbers. So good luck to him. But Phillies trade line acquisitions, Michael Lorenzen and Rodolfo Castro, both whom we saw today. And we'll talk about the fantastic debut of Michael Lorenzen, which I'm very hesitant to say, like, oh, damn, like they got a guy. But, because remember Drew Smiley's first start as a Philly, saw how that ended. We saw Jason Vargas's first start as a Philly. Saw how that ended. I'm trying to think. Kyle Gibson. I keep harping back to Kyle Gibson, but point is, if he does this again, maybe not this dominant because Lorenzen was fantastic. I would be like, okay, yeah, we got a guy, but I'm not willing to jump that first. So, all right. Gotta check something real quick. I wanted to see if Vasquez got picked up, but I don't think Andrew Vasquez. No, nothing yet. I'm kind of surprised by that, but that's fine. All right. Game 1. Phillies won 4-2. My player of the game was Taijuan Walker. Now, Walker, 6 2/3, 6 hits, 2 earned runs, 2 walks, 4 strikeouts. And the interesting thing about that is Walker did not have his stuff in this game. He was sitting like 3 to 4 miles an hour under what his average velocity sits at. And he was able to maneuver that. I can't say enough good things about Taijuan Walker and the absolute 180 his season has gone because I have a video out there saying, like, I can't take another Taijuan Walker start. And since then, he's just turned it on. Like, he's been a solid 3 for this team down the stretch here. And, he was great again. It didn't have his best stuff, but battled through, was able to work through, on the fly, which was great. I thought the series was doomed when I thought the series was doomed when Jorge Soler hit a 2-run home run in the first. So I'm like, yeah, that's great. That's awesome. And then, the Phillies led the next inning off with 2 walks and then a double play on the first pitch and then a 4-pitch strikeout. Was like awesome. The runners in scoring position has continuously been a thorn in our side, and we saw that in this game. But then the stud, Johan Rojas, RBI double to tie it up in the 4th. I can't say enough good things about this kid. Like, he's come up, and I felt like he hasn't really skipped a beat. We've seen it all the time with Phillies minor leaguers that come up and they're flat, Scott Kingery, Luke Williams, Nick Williams, Aaron Altair. Well, he was fine, but I'm trying to think of like other Bryson Stott when he first came up. Dalton Guthrie. I'm thinking. Even no, okay. But my point is, we've seen this 1,000 times where Phillies rookies would come up and be outmatched, and Johan Rojas is just hunkered down. He works great at bats. He isn't thrown away at bats. Like, even if he grounds out or something, I still feel like he worked like a 4, 5, 6 pitch at bat. And he comes up clutch. I mean, RBI double. And then in the 7th, you had Stott with a sac fly. And then Bohm with an RBI single for a little insurance in the 8th. And the Phillies, they got their 2-hole hitter in Alec Bohm because I just thank you. Alec Bohm had a fantastic series. Even today, he went over, but He worked incredible at bats, and that's all you want out of your two-hole hitter, especially when your leadoff guy is Schwarber. You just want two guys, and this is what they've been missing with Rhys Hoskins is, that 1-2 punch of Schwarber and Hoskins working the hell out of the out of the pitcher. I felt like in any game, when Schwarber and Hoskins were going right, before Harper would even come up in the 3 spot, the pitcher would be already at like 16 pitches because that's the way a 1-2 punch should be. And now they finally have that in Alec Boehm, who's just been incredible all year, but now he's finally being rewarded with it, hitting second. And I think they should stick him there. I think Alec Boehm should not be moved from the 2-hole. I don't think Topper thinks he's going to be moving from the 2-hole, which is just awesome. And then you had Kimbrel slam the door in the 9th. Pitching wise, he had, like I mentioned, Walker. He had Strom 2/3 of an inning, a hit, no earned runs, no walks, 1 strikeout. Hoffman 2/3, no hits, no earned runs, no walks, no strikeouts. Then Kimbrel with a clean 9th inning. So it was a solid win for the Phils, especially with Taiwan not having his best stuff. He battled, almost got through the 7th. I still think he should pitch the 7th, but I'm not the manager. And it was just a lot of stupid stuff. In terms of runners in scoring position. And that is a problem that I feel like a lot of Phillies fans are just beating a dead horse with. Game 2, Phillies won 3-1. My player of the game, of course, is Nick Castellanos, or I can give it to David Robertson too, who, let's be honest, he's a Philly forever after that. So JT Realmuto in this game was scratched from the lineup. He had that slide in game 1 and his palm was like ripped open. So he sat out games 2 and 3 of this series and then had a really good game today, which was really good to see. The Phillies defense has been a little shaky. You had that miscue with Harper in the first, nearly led to, I literally thought, I'm like, oh, here's where like the floodgates open. Luckily it didn't. And then Stubbs had a 2-4-3 double play, which was like awesome. I love that guy. And then we got to the scoring rolling around. Avisail Garcia with an RBI double in the 3rd to make it 1-0. However, Boehm saved a couple runs with his defense. Ranger, got smacked around in this game. I mean, Ranger, yes, he went 6 innings, but 6 1/3, 10 hits, 1 earned run, 2 walks, 3 strikeouts. I mean, not good. Like, really not good. If this is like a step in the right direction for Ranger, like in his previous starts, he's been getting shelled, but he's given up earned runs. And now he's got shelled, but he hasn't given up the earned runs. So if this is just the next like evolution of Ranger in terms of being back to who we saw in June, I think this was a positive outing. If he can go 6 1/3, 10 hits, 1 earned run, 2 walks, 3 strikeouts, if he can go like 6 and like 6 hits, maybe 1 or 2 earned runs, then we'll be down to like 7 innings, 3 hits, no earned runs, and then Rangers back for the stretch. But then I said in my notes here, like Suarez battled. He looked more like old Ranger, like he was pitching rather than just throwing the ball. And he just looked more comfortable. Obviously, he was getting hit around, but it wasn't hard contact, or at least a lot of it wasn't hard contact. So it wasn't like he was getting barreled to death. It was just like dinky hit, this, that. And luckily, it never broke open. You then had Marte come in relief. He kind of flirted with danger, but luckily he was able to get out of it. You had then Soto, an inning, a hit, no earned runs, no walks, and a strikeout. And again, I can't stand Soto right now. I said to some people, like, I'd rather see David Hale out there holding down the bullpen for the Phillies than to see Gregory Soto right now, because I don't trust him. And we saw it in last night's game when he blew it. And then we get to the 9th inning. Phillies down 1-0. Sandy Alcantara shoved for 8 innings. Looked like classic Sandy. And then the Marlins decided to pull him. He was at 100 pitches, but we've seen him go way more than that. The Marlins decide to pull him and then bring in David Robertson. Robertson they just got from the Mets. And we'll talk about Robinson later. Wink, wink, nudge, nudge, about a certain segment. They go get David Robertson. He then walks Schwarber. Then Cave comes in the pinch hit. Bohm got out, right? Yeah, Bohm got out, and then gets to Harper, and Harper smokes a ball. At Citizens Bank Park, that ball's gone, but we're not playing at Citizens Bank Park. Hits off the wall. Cave scores. We're tied up at 1. We're like, all right, we're going the extras because at this point, Casty is still look like 2022 Casty. So I'm like sitting there. I'm like, all right, we're gonna go to extra innings. We're gonna do this, do that. Like we'll be fine. Like we're back in this. Like the momentum has swung to us. Oh my god, I don't know why I'm yawning all the time. The momentum was swinging towards the Phillies, and it was kind of the opposite that we saw in Game 3. But Casty, 2-run home run against David Robertson with throwing that little knuckle curve, hung it over the plate, and Robertson knew it immediately. And then Dominguez came in and looked like Sir Anthony Dominguez, retired the side on 8 pitches, and the Phils win. And it was just awesome. You know, we always look at wins from a team standpoint to be like, this was the moment that switched the season, or they went on a little bit of a run. You point to the Joe Girardi stuff last year. Even when Girardi got fired and they were still one of the better teams, he had the Bryce injury. They kind of rallied behind that, and it seemed like this was one of these wins where it kickstarts them on a long streak, like a 6-7 game winning streak. And it could have been if the bullpen didn't dookie itself in Game 3, and we'll talk about that in a second. But I still think that you look at this Phillies win, and I think we're going to be looking back on it and being like, okay, yeah, that's when everything kind of culminated to, wherever this team winds up going. I'm sorry, like my phone's like blowing up right now, and I'm trying to figure out why. God, my phone's like so laggy right now. Yeah, I don't know. Anyway, yeah. So I think this will catapult them into being competent and being good and being, not to say they haven't been, but we're in a stretch. We're playing the Royals and Nationals next. Beat the hell out of them, because you took care of business. You did what you had to do in Miami, because this was a series everybody had circled post All-Star break, in the first little stretch run here, and you took care of business there. You should have swept down there, but you take 3 out of 4 anytime. So that's good. And then we get to Game 3, which was something. My player of shame, really, it's Rob Thompson. I'm not gonna put this on Turner. I could, but I'm more so putting this on Rob Thompson as kind of a domino effect, excuse me. Phillies get a 5-0 lead after 6. Casty with an RBI, Stott with an RBI, Stubbs and Bohm both with RBIs. And then we get to the 6th inning. Josh Bell and Jazz Chisholm back-to-back homers to make it 5-2. So then Wheeler is pulled. You get Strahm in the 7th. Strahm does his job. So Wheeler was good. 6 innings, 5 hits, 2 earned runs, 1 walk, 4 strikeouts. He's been really good since the All-Star break. He's not back to being Zach Wheeler, but he's back to being Zach Wheeler, a guy you can rely on to go 6, 7, 8 innings. And he could have probably gone 7. But I guess with the lefties up, you wanted to go to a lefty. My issue isn't with Strahm. Going with Strahm in the 7th, fine, whatever. He's been good, did his job. My issue was going with Strahm for the 8th, to lead off the 8th, because you have Chisholm batting in that inning. Batting 2nd in that inning, and I guess you want the lefty. But I don't know. Maybe go to Soto. Maybe go to Soto. Maybe go to Soto. Strahm gets into trouble, gives up 2 earned runs. Now it's 5-4. Hoffman picked up 2/3 of an inning, no hits, no earned runs, 2 walks, and a strikeout. And then we get to the 9th, and you know those feelings where you're just sitting there and you're like, I know what's about to happen. I know what's about to happen. At this point, Jesus Sanchez had an RBI walk from Hoffman and John Birdie with an RBI ground out. So it's 5-4 going into the 9th inning here. And you just feel it. Like, I can't describe it. You just know something bad is about to happen, and you just feel it in your loins, and you just feel you're like, oh, something bad's about to happen right now. You get the first out of the inning, and I'm like, okay, so maybe the tide is turning. Nope. Jorge Soler, solo home run, threw it right down the middle, and now it's tied, and Soto gets out of it. 1 inning, 2 hits, 1 earned run, no walk, no strikeouts. He's just been brutal. I'm going to look up his numbers right now post All-Star break, because they have to be bad. They have to be terrible. They have to be just god-awful. Let me see. God, why is my phone being like box? I do apologize for all the long pauses here. But here, let me go to Gregory Soto. That's not real. On splits. No, splits. Okay. Post All-Star break, 10 games to a 4 ERA, 9 innings, 5 earned runs. So, yeah. I mean, he's just been brutal, man. Like, I don't know what it is. It's just the stretch has been brutal for him. And I don't know. You get to the 10th inning, and then the tide turns again. Brandon Marsh, 2-run home run, 7-5 Phils. Awesome. Bring in Dirty Craig because he wasn't available for the 9th inning. So I guess you had to use him. You go to the 10th. He balks intentionally. He was tipping his pitches, gives up a RBI ground out, and then John Birdie with a sac fly. Tied up again. He was tipping his pitches. I forget exactly what they said, but he was tipping. So awesome. Glad the Phillies picked up on that. And then boom. RBI single in the 11th. Doing what the 2-hole hitter does, clutching up. 8-7 Phils. And then you bring in Dylan Covey. Which is fine. I guess you had to bring in somebody out of that bullpen, and it's going to have to be Covey. Covey did his job. But number 7 booted a ball, led to the tying run scoring. And then we held scoreless in the 12th, and then Jesus Sanchez walk-off single to win it for the Marlins. So, yeah, a real gut punch, especially because Covey did his job. Like, Dylan Covey was good. He should have been out of that inning. There's not a doubt in my mind. Like, even if Turner doesn't get Bell out, at least smother that ball so it doesn't leave the infield. Like, I would have much rather have Turner throw his body at that ball and not get Josh Bell and just hope that Covey can get that third out than to whatever the hell happened. He's just been just so brutal, man. And we'll talk about that when we talk about keynotes, because I have some things I want to talk about with that. But it's just been brutal with him, man. Just brutal. And I feel bad for him. But, like, come on. Let me get to today. The quick turnaround. This was the debut of Michael Lorenzen in a Phillies uniform. I actually forgot about this, but they mentioned this, that him and Caleb Cotham were actually teammates on the Reds. They weren't like coach and player, like they were teammates. Like they were in the same pitching room with their pitching coach together, and now one's a pitching coach and one is now a pitcher for the Phillies, which I think is hilarious. But the scoring got started. JT made his first start since cutting his hands. Then promptly on the first pitch he saw, a 2-run home run give the Phillies a 2-0 lead against against Johnny Cueto and the Marlins. You then had Jazz Chisholm with an RBI double in the fourth to make it 2-1. Marshy RBI single with the bases loaded against the lefty. Believe that he can hit lefties to make it 4-2, or excuse me, make it 4-1. And then Brian De La Cruz solo home run in the fourth, in the seventh to make it 4-2. And I got to give a shout out to myself for nailing the Michael Lorenzen pick. Michael Lorenzen was fantastic in his Phillies debut. I mean, 8 innings, 5 hits, 2 earned runs, 2 walks, 4 strikeouts. He was pounding the zone. He looked like he was in control the entire time. Didn't seem like he was flustered, especially, in that 8th inning when I forget who it was, hit the double. Didn't panic. Next pitch, got out of it to give us 8 innings. And I love the move of Michael Lorenzen. And again, so far, so good. The early return is really good. I kind of wanted him. I convinced myself that Lorenzen would be the guy, and now looks like it's paying dividends because he saved the Phillies bullpen a lot. Because they were taxed, man. Like this week stretch has been brutal on them, and you're kind of seeing it because this Phillies bullpen has been great all year, and now all of a sudden they've been kind of gassed because of the length of schedule, and Lorenzen giving them 8 innings today was ginormous, and only having to use Sir Anthony, ginormous, because now, your guys should be ready for this Royal Series, and hopefully this Royal Series we'll be seeing a lot of Dylan Covey and not, Kimbrel and not Sir Anthony and not whoever else. Hopefully we're seeing a lot of Dylan Covey because you should murder these guys. But yeah, I mean, Lorenzen, awesome. That's my player of the game was Michael Lorenzen. And how could it be anybody else? He was great. I'm very happy for him and just looked like a dude, just a dude. And if that guy can give you even half of that, if he can give you 6 innings, 3 runs on every 6th day, you take that. And I think he's capable of that. And I honestly think he's capable of being better because this stuff goes back a while with Michael Lorenzen. Like his past 7 starts, he has like a 2-something ERA. Like he's been good for a while now, and I feel like teams were undervaluing him because they were going after the Scherzers, the Verlanders, the what other starting pitcher got moved? I don't know, but Lorenzen was, I think, going to be one of the most underrated moves of the deadline. I hope this doesn't blow up in my face, but so far the early return on Michael Lorenzen, A-okay. And now we got to get to some keynotes from the series. I think Trea Turner would benefit a lot from like a Phantom IL stint. It's mental with him. He said, I'm the reason we lost this game. And he was in the batting cage for hours last night trying to figure out what the hell went wrong. And, I mentioned in my last podcast, I just finished that book about Roy Halladay and the mental side of the game, which not a lot of people really think about. Not being in a slump, what that does to a guy's mental health and everything. And I feel for Trea Turner, and him taking responsibility and being like, yeah, I've been sucking. Like I've been trying, I've been doing this, I've been doing that. Like it'd be one thing for him to be like, I gotta be better or this and that. Like you can see it in his body language and in the comments and everything. You see he's taking this to heart. And it sucks because everybody in Philly wants him to succeed. He's here for 11 years, so he isn't going anywhere. It's just been a brutal, brutal season for him. And I hope this was his I effing hate this place moment. And he turns it around. Like he didn't have a good game today, but he barreled up a couple balls. So he looked better. He looked better in his at-bats. He wasn't swinging as much. He was, he looked a lot better. But I think, I hope for him, for his sake, that things start to turn around, because being depressed sucks, man. Like I think everybody has dealt with it, and you can see it with him. And every form of his game is just, I feel like he's overanalyzing everything and he's picking apart everything and is being like, okay, that's not working, so I need to fix that, and therefore I need to fix that, and this and that and this and that. Like, he's overthinking everything. And I think if he kind of has a week off of his feet to kind of do a very hard reset, and really focus on hitting. And Matt Hartman texted me, floated the idea of, what if you give Trea some starts at DH, so all he has to worry about is hitting. You roll out Castro and shortstop. The only downside to that is Bryce will have to play first and Schwarber will have to play left. But if I have to sit through Kyle Schwarber in left field for a week for Trea Turner to be Trea Turner, I'll take that deal 10 times out of 10 because I just want him to be Trea Turner again, and it just sucks. So I hope it turns around for him. Zach Wheeler, I mentioned this, has been awesome since the All-Star break. He's just looked more comfortable. He's looked more like Zach Wheeler. His ball has a lot more zip to it. He just looks like a guy. He looks like a dude. Dominguez also looked like himself again, had 2 saves in the series. Getting him is just as good as getting a trade, as a reliever through a trade. And I think that's why the Phillies didn't really target anybody bullpen wise, because they like the guys they have and they trust the guys that they have. And there's no reason why you shouldn't, because this Phillies bullpen has been fantastic all season. It's just this little stretch right here. And getting Sir Anthony back to being what we know Sir Anthony Dominguez can be, I think that's going to be huge for the Phils. I think it's going to be huge for the downstretch here, especially if you get Jose Alvarado back. I think it's going to be good to have him back. And then Bryson Stott is just he's so good at baseball. Like we saw today with he was down 0-2 and he didn't take great swings today. He looked very off balance, didn't look like he was seeing the ball particularly well, but he was able to hunker down and work a great walk, which inevitably led to some runs. So just Bryson Stott's so good at baseball, and he's just so hot, dude. Like, I love Bryson Stott. Might be my next jersey purchase because give me a powder blue Bryson Stott. Butter me up, baby. Butter me up because I love me some Bryson Stott. And now transitioning. The worst show on the internet. Where are they now? I screwed that up. Where are they now? The worst show on the internet. This is a series in which we look down some of the guys who have graced the Phillies bullpen over the past few years. And I mentioned this guy before. I have that guy who was traded for a guy that I did mention, and a guy who was just traded on Monday. On Tuesday. So my first guy was Phillies National League champion, David Robertson. David Robertson was drafted by the Yankees in the 17th round of the 2006 MLB draft, made his major league debut June 29, 2008. Spent 2008 to 2014 with the Yankees, 402 games, 393 innings to a 2.81 ERA. He was averaging 62 games a year. Talk about consistency and dominance. Like, he was awesome, and he still is. Obviously, his Marlins tenure has not been off to the best start, thanks to the Phils, but he's just been great his entire career, even with the Phillies. I mean, yeah, he sucked in the playoffs, but we don't get there without David Robertson. After the 2014 season, he signs a 4-year, $46 million contract with the Chicago White Sox, a team in which he spent 2015 to 2017 with 153 games, 159 innings to a 3.28 ERA. He was then traded back to the Yankees at the 2017 trade deadline. The trade is as follows. The Yankees received David Robertson, Todd Frazier, Tommy Kahnle, and the White Sox got Blake Rutherford, Tyler Clippard, Ian Clarkin, and Tito Paulo. So pretty hefty trade on both. And then he spent 2017 to 2018 back with the Yankees, 99 games, 104 and 2/3 to a 2.5 ERA. So just the definition of consistency has David Robertson been. And then after the 2018 season, Phillies need a guy. They go out and get him because he's the perfect he's the perfect guy of clean health and sustainability and greatness. and signs a 2-year, $23 million contract with the Phillies. Pitched in 7 games, 6 and 2/3 to a 5.40 ERA. Then he needed Tommy John surgery because, of course, he did. The contract was seen as like not a massive bust, but like who could, in the Phillies' defense, like who could have saw David Robertson needing Tommy John surgery after he was averaging like 50 plus games a year with like a 2.7 to 3 ERA year in and year out. So nobody could have saw that. God, that scared the hell out of me. Oh my God. He's just going to stay there now. I kind of like it there. Oh my heart's like beating out of my chest. That scared me so hard. Anyway, he then signed with the High Point Rockers of the Atlantic League of Professional Baseball in 2021. Only pitched in 2 games, 2 and 2/3 innings, 0 ERA. He was then picked up by the Rays soon after the same year, 12 games, 12 innings to a 4.50 ERA. And then in 2022, signed a 1-year deal with the Chicago Cubs, 36 games, 40 innings, 40 and a third innings to a 2.23 ERA. He was then obviously traded to the Phillies at the deadline. Phillies got David Robertson and the Cubs got Ben Brown, which, yes, was a bit of an overpay, but the Phillies don't make a playoff push without David Robertson period. So it's the price you pay when your windows now is in Ben Brown. With the Phillies, 22 games, 23 and a third to a 2.7 ERA. Again, like I said, sucked in the playoffs, but couldn't close out the NLCS. Barely closed out the first game of the World Series. It was a mess with him in the playoffs. And it pisses me off more because I was watching David Robertson throw like 91, 92 miles an hour in the playoffs. And then he gets to the Mets and he's throwing like 94, 95, 96. I'm like, I know I didn't just see 96 on the gun from David Robertson. And then after the 2022 postseason, like I mentioned, he signed a 1-year deal with the Mets, 40 games, 44 innings to a 2.05 ERA. He was traded a couple days before the deadline to the Miami Marlins. Marlins got Robertson. The New York Mets got Ronald Hernandez and Marco Vargas. And in 3 games, 3 innings, a 12 ERA. And I close it out with forever a Philly, David Robertson. What? Oh, the thumbtack came out that was holding it. I mean, he's kind of chilling there. It's fine. And my next guy is a guy who got us arguably our best closer or best option out of the bullpen. The next guy is Garrett Clevinger. Garrett Clevinger, drafted by the Baltimore Orioles in the 3rd round of the 2015 MLB draft, was traded to the Phillies at the 2017 trade deadline. The Orioles received Jeremy Hellickson. Phillies got Hung Soo Kim. You guys remember Hung Soo Kim? Love that guy. Electric Factory. Pretty sure he had a walk-off, if I do remember correctly. And Garrett Clevinger. He made his major league debut September 17, 2020. 1 game, 2/3 of an inning to a 13.50 ERA. And this is where it gets interesting. In the 2020 offseason, the Phillies, Dodgers, and Rays all made a trade. The Dodgers got Garrett Clevinger. The Rays got Dylan Paulson and a player to be named later. And the Phillies got Jose Alvarado from the trade with Garrett Clevinger. Clevinger spent 2021 to 2022 with the Dodgers. He's actually not bad. He was pretty good. 26 games, 22 and a third to a 4.43 ERA. He was then actually traded to the Tampa Bay Rays at the 2022 trade deadline in exchange for Herman Tapia. He spent currently with the Tampa Bay Rays 28 games, 30 and 2/3 innings to a 2.64 ERA. However, in May, he suffered a season-ending torn ACL. So wish him to come back and have the dominance he did because, 30 innings, 2.64 ERA. It's really good for Garrett Clevinger. So nothing but the best for him next year whenever he comes back. My final guy was a guy I had a lot of faith in because he learned to change up, and a guy who was literally just traded 3 days ago. That would be Bailey Falter. Bailey was drafted in the 5th round of the 2015 MLB draft, made his major league debut April 25th, 2021. Spent 2021 to 2023, obviously, with the Phillies, 50 games, 24 starts, 158 innings to a 4.56 ERA. People forget we do not make the playoffs without Bailey Falter doing what he did down the stretch run and being pretty good. He had like a 2-something ERA during the last like 5 starts of the season when Wheeler was out. So people forget Phillies don't make the playoffs without Bailey Falter. And then he was obviously traded to the Pittsburgh Pirates at this year's trade deadline in exchange for Rodolfo Castro. So tip of the hat to you, Bailey Falter, and good luck in Pittsburgh, buddy. And that wraps up another edition of Where Are They Now? We're show on the internet. And wrapping it up, the series against the Royals. We have Aaron Nola. Sweet Jesus. We have Aaron Nola versus Jordan Lyles, Christopher Sanchez versus Alec Marsh, and Taijuan Walker versus Zach Greinke. You need the sweep. Like, I'm not even capping with you right now. I'm going to be straightforward here. You got to sweep. This Royals team is historically bad. And the only guy I'm worried about is Bobby Witt Jr. That's it. Even then, I'm not really worried about it because their pitching is atrocious, and you need to take advantage of that. The only guy they had was value. Scott Barlow is now a member of the San Diego Padres, which way to fumble that one, Phils. But it's fine. It's fine. All right, that's going to do it for me. Thank you guys so much for listening. Feel free to like, subscribe, follow all socials down below. And a reminder, August 10th, in a week from today, the 1-year live stream extravaganza against the Nationals. Come out, say hi, watch the game with me. It'll be a fun time. And yeah, so thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.